with the history of Palestine and the Palestinians, because many observers of the Israeli occupation of the Palestinians have been particularly puzzled by the onerous features of that policy which seem to constitute collective punishment. For example, the blockade and closure of whole Palestinian cities because of the actions of a few Palestinian guerrillas, or the recent admonition by Israeli Security Minister Gideon Ezra, who, according to the Sydney Morning Herald of August 20th, 2001, advocates the, quote, liquidation of the fathers of Palestinian resistance fighters. And I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, in Jewish religious law, where you are advocating the liquidation of fathers, you have already labeled the sons Amalek. So it would seem that this Amalek category includes both revisionist and dissident historians as well as Palestinians. Indeed, the Israeli academic Hannah Kasher, a researcher at Bar-Ilan University, I was able to find her paper on the internet. I don't think it was meant for me. But if you learn how to use the internet, how to sleuth on it, it can be a marvelous tool. She wrote a thinly veiled scholarly rationale for Israeli collective punishment of Palestinians. And you can see how thinly veiled it is from her title, Rationales Justifying Collective Punishment of Amalek. Professor Kasher writes that the, quote, commandment to blot out Amalek has not essentially been nullified. Now, she's writing this last year. And she adds, and I quote, any person descended of Amalek has a death sentence over his head from the moment of his birth, even if he himself has committed no sin. His culpability is innate. Professor Kasher, who wrote those words last year, states that the struggle against Amalek is a war of annihilation against a contemporary foe, in which one does not refrain from killing women and children. End quote, from a contemporary Israeli academic, talking about a contemporary foe that deserves genocide. Professor Kasher adds that the Talmudic sage Maimonides, who justifies the collective punishment of Amalek, civilians as well as combatants, does so as a justifiable deterrent effect. And of course, we have heard Israeli Prime Minister Sharon use those very words. In 1986, the Israeli Army Chief Chaplain, known as Rabbi Shmuel Derlich, issued an order to the army to annihilate all Arabs because, he said, they are Amalek. When his statement was vigorously protested, Rabbi Derlich said his sermon to the army had been misunderstood, and he was actually identifying Amalek with the Germans, not the Arabs. And that reference is from the Nation magazine, August 16th, 1986, page 103.